everybody, I'm Jim.
And I'm Trip.
This is Dead Center, where we try to conversate, not constant hate, and
Get to the fucking point. What a fucking point. I mean, do we have a lot of points today, Jim?
We got quite a few.
We have a great show or a terrible show.
Depends on how much you like porn.
God, I hate you so. Big news. North Korea, South Korea came to an agreement, a peace treaty.
I think it was first introduced as a historic summit.
Right.
And it was the first time that the leaders of the two countries have gotten together, definitely within the current Kim's timeline.
Right, well, since I've been alive.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely since he's been alive. I don't know if his dad did or not. But it might have been since the first leader of North Korea. But, feel free to yell at us and tell us we don't know what the fuck.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I mean, like we've said on previous podcasts, we did give them money in the late 90s, early 2000s, shit like that. So it's not that... tensions have been a lot higher lately. Since Obama, especially since Trump, they've gone along the lines of... Iran, they want nuclear power, they want a seat at the table, they're a shitstorm of an economy and country.
They are what they are, and Obama was the one that first came in since, the 70s or 80s and said basically they're no longer a state-funded terrorist organization.
Right, he stopped that.
Right, we consider them a sovereign state, and then since then, I think Obama was criticized for even mentioning anything along the lines of wanting to do or deal in diplomacy with that entity, and then now we finally have Trump saying, "Nah, let's sit down and talk." And the next thing you know, they blow themselves up. And
yeah, so let's go through that, because last week I ate a lot of crow. I gave Trump a lot of credit. Well, I gave the people he put. I gave Mike Pompeo credit. And I gave the timeline of the Syrian strikes credit. So I gave Trump credit. I more thought that he acted in the right set of circumstances on each occasion, rather than he put it all together and played 4D chess. Either way, I gave him a lot of credit. Let's go over since last week. You had initially Kim Jong-un comes out and he historically crosses the border and shakes hand with Jae-moon, and they're talking, and it comes out that you were right. They fucking fell apart at some point or another in time. They tested 5 nuclear bombs in a mountain, and it fucking collapsed.
I think I don't mean to pat myself on the back too much.
Oh, okay.
But
well, go ahead and do it.
I'm gonna go ahead and fucking do it. The idea that they did this without us knowing about it is insane.
Right. I definitely.
I think maybe that this is just the first time that we, as the average citizen, are hearing about it.
Right.
But that aside, the idea that they probably, and I think the narrative right now is that Trump's pressure for them to come to the table or face fire and fury or whatever.
Well, I think that Trump getting on board and starting the fire and fury comments, because if you're a place
my button's bigger than your button.
Right, if you're a place like North Korea, the United States really does have a high capacity for nuclear weapons. Our capability of nuclear weapons is way beyond that of North Korea. We went through it with Russia for 45 to 50 years in a Cold War, trying to get our nuclear arms up to par, getting our intercontinental ballistic missiles going, getting everything together for that. North Korea sat there and watched. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, the entire world watched. So when Trump comes out and says, well, back up. Obama says you're no longer state-sponsored terror. Now, you've got Trump that's like, no, wait a minute, fuck that. They want nuclear weapons, they're state-sponsored terror, we shouldn't do anything with them. You got to think, Kim Jong-un's like, okay, we need to get up to par. We need to get where they're at as fast as we possibly can. And I think him testing 5 nuclear bombs in a mountain might have had something to do with Trump ramping up these, crazy comments about the shit. And I don't want to say that this all has to do with Trump, but I think if Obama's not giving them the time of day, they're not going as fast to get to where they were at when this collapse happened. Does that make sense?
No, I agree with you. I think that between us funding their nuclear power or energy initiative and Obama declassifying them as no longer being a terrorist organization. Or
state-funded terror.
Right. Am I boring you?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
No, I'm sorry.
Outside of those
Dude,
two
I was
things,
up all fucking night with a screaming baby. I know you're not boring me. I'm just tired.
outside of those two things, I don't see North Korea being as motivated to become nuclear.
Right.
Because even the most recent intimidation tactic that they've taken has just been shooting missiles over Japan.
Right.
Those don't need
Well, I mean,
to be
they threatened to test it. They threatened to test nuclear weapons in those waters.
They threatened to test in that water.
Right.
But, I mean, they would have...
It's the South China Sea.
They would have had a hard time doing so, outside of the fact that they would have probably seen pretty severe consequences if they had pulled it off even once.
Right.
And yet here we are, not even a few years later, whenever, from when they threatened to do so, and they've blown up themselves.
Well, I think that and I said this in our last podcast about the intelligence factor, our intelligence factor, about how a lot of this doesn't make sense.
The whole idea that they would have done anything like testing in the China Sea is asinine, just because one, the whole operation would have been impossible to pull off without another entity, another sovereign country realizing they were doing it.
Right.
And they're surrounded by UN.
And it's a nuke. You're not going to not affect anybody.
Right. And, of course. I mean, at the very least, you'd expect a tidal wave in Japan.
Right. Something.
Or
tidal wave of radioactive fucking water.
Right. So,
Oh,
but long story short, what they ultimately ended up doing was blowing themselves up. They decimated one of the larger mountains in their country.
Right.
And at least that's what we're hearing.
But that's what I'm saying. It wasn't just one bomb that they tested. It was 5. They tested 5 in that mountain over the course of this last year or two. More so since the Trump tirade happened. You had him being called Little Rocket Man. Look, I don't think they're sending intercontinental ballistic missiles over Japan. I don't think they're threatening to do the things they're doing if they know they're not going to be able to back that up. I think it caves in, and then they're like, well, fuck. And I wonder when that was in accordance with Mike Pompeo coming.
I think the report said it happened before that.
Yeah, I mean, it would have probably had to. I didn't see that part, but either way, they now came to the table for peace. They now came, and South Korea came out and was like, we give a lot of credit to Trump for
so
engaging.
Let's just recap real fast. Between the last few episodes, we're
scared of nuclear war.
Right.
We're not scared.
And then we gave the Trump administration in joint effort with France and the UK to pull off this fireworks show that we basically wrote off as a $100 million plus fireworks show. And then the following week, we had to kind of eat some crow and say, oh shit, I may have gotten some stuff done, because now Russia and China both are backing up and saying we should talk about this in the UN chambers.
Mm-hmm.
And now, a week later, we're talking about how North Korea has come to the table with South Korea after blowing themselves up.
Yeah, so it probably wasn't the fucking
denuclearize. I'm not saying it was the Syrian effort,
right?
but if the Korean Peninsula, which is currently, as far as we know, unless someone's trying to pull a fast one, about to reunite and end a 50-plus-year-old war.
Right. Well, you had Kim Jong-un coming out and saying he was embarrassed of their infrastructure.
Which is clearly outside of his character.
Outside of any North Korean leader's character. They're revered as gods.
How humbled has this guy become? And how much of it is a ruse? Like, I mean, I'm sitting here, a lot of I don't want to specify it, but it's a lot of far one side or the other. if you're far left or if you're far right, then you kind of have this tendency to fall down rabbit holes and
You know
give
what's
them
funny
a little
is
bit
the
too much
same
credit.
far right that is embracing conspiracies are the same far right that do not acknowledge any of the conspiracy that goes on surrounding 9/11. So I really don't fucking want to hear any conspiracies from the far right.
Right, but my point is both sides have this tendency to look at everything that's going on right now on a global scale and trying to attribute some sort of ex-KGB Putin tactic.
As somebody who prides himself on being dead center, as we have created this show as our brainchild, right? I look at it in a timeline stance. The mountain collapsed. Okay, no, Trump starts his shit, right? Because North Korea is not stopping with their nuclear energy, facilitating and testing and trying to make a bomb, blah, 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 ICBM shit. Right? And the whole reason he did that was because a newspaper come out and said, or a reporter come out and said, hey, they've got intercontinental ballistic missile capability, ICBM capability. This is huge, right? And Trump comes out after that and says, oh, they best not do this or they'll meet fire and fury. How in the fuck, if the sitting U.S. president, do you not know this, but a fucking field reporter for a news agency does? There's no way that our intelligence was that bad. You can't look me in the face and tell me that. Okay? Now, I'm not going to sit here and embrace some big 4D chess move, right? But they have to know. They have to have eyes on that situation. There's no way that they don't, right? So Trump comes out and starts talking and talking and talking and doing what Trump does, okay? You see North Korea talk back. He's a big orange mobster, blah, blah, blah. They go back and forth on Twitter and exchange. And then, what? That was October. It's now the end of April, and North Korea and South Korea are talking about reunite, right? A month ago, as Mike Pompeo, was Easter, right? When Mike Pompeo was there. That means in March, their nuclear testing facility collapsed. Right? They tested 5 nuclear bombs there. Now, why are they testing a whole bunch of nuclear shit right now? You look at, and like I said earlier, you look at North Korea as a country. They know the United States has the capability. They watched it for 50 years go back and forth between us and Russia. There's no way they don't see that and see that, look, you guys are talking about having ICBMs with nukes on them. Motherfucker, we've been had that. You better get with the program. Right? And Trump's talking all that cash money bullshit. I hate him. I hate the way he talks. But I'm looking at a timeline. I'm not going to ignore the facts because I don't like the people involved. Right? Just because I don't like the players doesn't mean I'm not going to watch the Super Bowl.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at it. Okay? Trump's talking all this shit. Kim Jong-un's like, we have to test. We have to get up to par. We can't make threats and not be able to back them up. Boom. Collapse. And a month and a half later, Kim Jong-un is saying he's embarrassed of their infrastructure. That is a far cry from 8 months ago when he said that he was going to bomb the United States, or he was going to bomb Guam, I'm sorry, when he said he was going to fucking send in ICBMs around Guam. That is such a far cry, okay? I don't like Trump, but you can't ignore the timeline here, all right? I don't know that Trump knew that they did or did not have ICBMs. I don't know any of that because I'm not a U.S. intelligence specialist. But I do know that if if a fucking bodybuilder's over there bench pressing 400 pounds saying, I'm going to kick your ass, and I tear my pectoral muscle trying to catch up to him, the reason I tore my pectoral muscle isn't just because I wanted to work out. It's because he says he's going to kick my ass.
Right, and now that my pectoral muscle is totally ripped, I know for a fact there's nothing I can do if that guy decides he's going to kick my ass.
Exactly. Not that I think Donald Trump would press the button.
No, but here's okay, that aside, that whole argument aside.
Right.
Let's talk about how maybe this could be a little bit of China and a collaborative effort. So from both sides. And when I say sides, I mean the sides of, the sand.
Are we like Axis versus allies?
Right. No, but kind of.
I mean,
more like China and Russia versus the rest of the UN. I mean, or the countries they support versus the rest of the UN.
Right.
All the way we break it down to Iran if we really want to. But my point is that maybe maybe we got what's his name? Xi.
Xi Jinping.
Thank you, in Beijing, and he just got president for life, and he maybe wants to live a little bit longer, have a little bit longer time to set up a legacy, blah blah blah.
Right,
could
but
be a
now
whole lot behind that, but he met with Kim Jong-un as well,
Right.
and maybe he came out and said, "Look, man, like we're supporting these UN sanctions because X, Y, and Z,
Right.
and you need to get on board because of A, B, and C."
Mhm.
And you know, whether or not the mountain had collapsed prior to that, Kim might have turned around and been like, "Yeah, you're right, because we're kind of swinging punch here."
Yeah, I mean, you gotta wonder there. You gotta wonder the radioactivity that's creeping out of that mountain. You gotta wonder.
They're not a large country.
Right, exactly. So how long is it before it affects South Korea, and then North Korea asks for United States funds to help fix the problem?
There could be a whole.
You know what I'm saying? Like
There could
there's,
be a
and now that's
whole
now let
lot
me
of
let me
places.
just say that is a lot of speculation. I don't want to open a can of worms, but there's a lot.
We do.
There's a lot that, well, you know, there's a lot that plays into this. There's a lot of speculation that you can take. There's a lot of whatever. I just know the facts of the timeline from October to now, and they are drastically different based on certain things that have been said and actual events that have taken place.
Right. And and I think this is kind of an accumulation of everything we're saying right now, if Russia and China come to the table regarding the proxy war in Syria on a diplomatic level, and North Korea and South Korea are able to do the same on a diplomatic level and end their half a century long war.
The 53.
Yeah. No, 53 was when the armistice came about.
Okay.
The war started in 50.
Right.
So I mean, it's been 60 plus years.
Yep.
If this is all able to happen, I mean, I don't know how much you're able as a listener to give Donald Trump and his administration credit, or what they've done on the global scale credit, but it's kind of hard not to at least tip the hat to him.
Like I said, just because I don't like the players don't mean I'm not watching the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And I've said this before on this podcast. I will argue against Donald Trump's social policies within our country every day, but he's going to run on foreign policy. And I don't think he's going to win, but he's going to run on it. And guess what? If this Syria situation calms down, you got a whole nother can of worms. Now,
if North Korea and South Korea come to a full-on peace, denuclearize the peninsula, and join hands
they
as
won't
possibly
denuclearize. They won't denuclearize. The reason they won't denuclearize is because South Korea is an ally, and if North Korea by proxy becomes an ally, then they will by proxy be able to access nuclear capabilities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but even at that point, if North Korea comes to the point where
You're talking about not worried about them firing a nuke at us once they get one.
Maybe.
Okay.
If they no longer become an aggressive entity, if all of this plays out as it appears on paper, on surface level, if it plays out the way it looks like it's going to play out.
Right.
And also, the Syrian situation, as you said, calms down, but as I'm looking at it, it possibly is going to become like a UN discussion.
Right.
With the big five powers finally figuring out their shit and slicing up the pie finally, and settling it down as a whole.
Yeah, let the West carve up the fucking
Middle East again for like the third or fourth time,
and make it worse.
My point still being, if those two major conflicts come to an end while Donald Trump is in his first 4 years of his presidency,
right,
and there are multiple entities on each side of the coin for both of these conflicts saying, yeah, it was him and his administration, or even if they just say it was the United States involvement that caused these things to happen. Exactly.
Right, yeah.
You can run solely on that international idea, and more than one person will give you credit for averting World War III.
Let me ask you this, and this is because I already know my answer. When you ask anybody, any Republican specifically, why they hated Obama, what was their answer? He made us look weak as a nation. I don't want to say every Republican is a warmonger or a war hawk or whatever, but You ask anybody, you ask any one of them, they're all for strengthening our military, even though we spend like 25 times more than the next 5 countries combined.
So many billions of dollars.
Barons and barons, Howard Briggs. We spend so much, right? They are all for foreign policy and always, stick the entitlement programs to the side. Fuck those kids. Fuck those old
We don't
people.
care about us at home.
Yes, we just got to look powerful on the world stage. But I think that's enough to get the base out again. Now, the same people that voted Donald Trump, if you put somebody like Joe Biden, like Cory Booker, if you put somebody like that in the Democratic candidacy, I don't know that he takes it. I think that everybody's sick of his shit on Twitter, including a lot of the people that voted for him. Because once Bernie got kicked out of the race, a lot of those people saw that the DNC are the ones who fucked him. And they went and voted for Trump. Half of them voted for Trump, half of them voted for Hillary.
Half?
I think it was a lot bigger number than you might be expecting. I think maybe not half. I'll concede that. Maybe not half.
I'm just saying, like, that's a
But Trump didn't have a big track record of politics. He ran. I mean, we talked about this before. He ran on a lot of propaganda, a lot of "I'm not one of them, so I'll make you better." You know what I mean? You'll be rich. Blah blah blah. I'll make America great again. I'm gonna drain the swamp. Drain the swamp. I'm not a part of the swamp. Blah blah blah. He ran on that, and you didn't have a political history to look back on. All you had was the fucking game show that he hosted for a few years. You know what I mean? The president, yeah, and his
celebrity of president.
he had, that's all he had. So I think once people saw, oh shit, the DNC they're corrupt as fuck. This guy, yeah, he's probably crazy, but at least he's not lying about his emails and hacking people and trying to get Bernie knocked off. And I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Hillary either. I thought they were both shit candidates.
Well, at least one of them was total shit.
Yeah, we knew that, or we know that now, for sure. But anyways, all back to my point. I think that foreign policy is a big enough, foreign policy and tax cuts is a big enough thing for Trump to run on.
Do you think that success is big enough for the 2018 election?
No, I think the House and the Senate get flipped.
You think they're going to go blue?
I think there's a blue wave.
Oh shit!
I think so. I think there's a lot. I think it's going to turn out like the second half of Obama's presidency, where he couldn't get a fucking thing done because the Republicans ran it. Right? The GOP had control of the legislative branch, and
that was the middle half.
The middle of the first half. Because he passed.
Because it was he came into blue.
Right, but then the 2010 midterms.
Right, and then it was red.
And then it was red, and then it stayed red.
But then he won again, and then
he won again, but it stayed red.
The 24. I thought I could have sworn
2012
2014 midterms.
Well, maybe.
I could have sworn the 2014 midterms made it.
I don't know.
Close, but it was still mostly blue, and then
fucking Billy, man, we got to get a new sound guy.
Right, I know.
I think
we're someone that shows up.
Yeah.
Consider this a want ad.
Yes, if you hear this and you are a sound guy in the Pensacola area and are free from 11 to 1 on Sunday,
or just fit in a chair,
can look some shit up real quick,
and know how to Google stuff. That'd be fantastic. I can handle most of setting up the sound for the episode. But yeah, you could just sit at a computer desk and
search some shit. That'd be great.
That'd be great. So we were talking about North Korea.
Yeah. So now let's talk about some of the things that the Supreme Court's done. They did. We can talk on the travel ban first. They also talked about DACA. We can go over that later.
So the travel ban being upheld by the Supreme Court was kind of nuts. In my opinion...
But it wasn't the same travel ban as it was the first time.
No, because they changed it whenever they realized it was going to go to the Supreme Court.
Well, they changed it because it was a Muslim person ban, because you had Christian people that could get here, but not Muslim people.
And then they changed it to shithole country ban or something.
Well, the shithole country thing is a whole nother...
it was Eskimo. My point is... But my point is they changed it to an international
Right.
And
Well,
no
and it was
longer
a
religious.
yeah. Well, they did they added North Korea and Chad, right? That aren't Muslim majority countries. So it was like it's not a Muslim ban. So
And I want to say they solidified a little bit of the dialogue, or not the dialogue, the verbiage, so that it's not, it's not someone of a certain faith or a certain person. It's the country.
right, specifically the country. Work visas are allowed, and if you've already got a green card from that country, you're allowed, and that's it. No refugees. We're not taking anybody like that.
So anyone out there that is on the left that is going, what the fuck did the Supreme Court do? Let me make this clear. The Supreme Court has one job, and that is making sure that the United States Constitution is upheld.
And in Article 2 of the Constitution,
Like to say so.
Article 2 of the Constitution is the There's a clause in it where if the president thinks that our national security is at risk, he is allowed to do whatever he thinks necessary, right? Because a lot of people on the left don't either realize it or know it, but Obama did the same thing in 2010, right? It wasn't as broad and it wasn't as sweeping. It was just Syria and Iraq, maybe, just places where ISIS was.
And a few other countries.
No, not ISIS. I'm sorry, ISIS wasn't there yet.
No. That was 2012.
2012, right? Correct.
But no, those countries were more of a.
Maybe Obama did it.
Because that brought up the whole argument about Syrian refugees. That's what started it.
Right.
Because our nation's policy towards it was established under Obama, and
Right.
and everyone just kind of didn't realize that was the case until we were
The
already.
Syrian war started in 2011, so it would have had to have been that time, around that time.
Right. My point being that the what Obama did as far as travel bans go,
Right.
is you're looking at Syria and predominantly Syrian individuals, because we were trying to keep out Syrian refugees. We
Right.
didn't want the Syrian war spilling over. Blah blah blah.
Right.
And the other thing was, is that we were currently bombing Yemen and Libya.
Libya was
So
the
there
big
were-
thing.
there were a
Yeah,
couple-
we
there were
were.
a couple other entities that were.
For
we
the
were just
people who
trying to
say
keep out.
Obama wasn't a war hawk, dude.
Right. We were actively trying to keep out anyone that would be coming over here holding a chip on their shoulder.
Right.
Some
Right.
some sort of grudge
And
against us.
and there's also precedent. There's also precedent in not doing this. Lyndon B. Johnson signed. It was an immigration act, something to that effect, and it kind of put that power back into the legislative hands. But I don't remember if that was a executive order, or I think it was just an executive order, which is obviously changes from president to president. So that's the precedent that the left tries to use to say that this is not okay, but the Constitution is the Constitution, right? So technically, Trump had the right to do it. But if you look at his campaign, dude, he was talking about making Muslims fucking register. Does that ring any bells?
Yeah, that's what I said. Do we need to have them wear a patch that shows the moon
Yeah.
and the star as well?
Let's be honest. Look, I am not a Muslim. I am a Christian. I'm a Catholic. But I do not believe that the majority of Muslims want to kill me and my family in a holy war. And if you do, then you're
Read some more.
yeah, you're out of touch.
Please just
You can't-
go read some more.
Don't cherry pick the Quran in the same way other people cherry pick the Bible.
Let's be fucking honest for a second. I don't mean to kind of really attack the right, but while we're sucking the Don's D a little bit, this international policy, let me get off my knees for a second and yell at something.
The floor
If
is
you
yours.
are one of those holier than thou Christians that gets your entire international and domestic perspective on a political scale from Fox News, and you think therefore you have some sort of knowledge and can say with all of your pride and whatever backing it, the value of your word is stemming from these notions, and you can say that every Muslim, it is in the Quran, they absolutely have for thousands of years been against us and want nothing more than to wipe us off the planet and blah blah blah, then I'm telling you right now, I will not listen to your arguments. because they fall on deaf ears. You do not educate yourself. You do not educate yourself.
You have to look it up from an objective standpoint, right? The Muslim religion is a religion that teaches to. It doesn't teach to turn the other cheek, right? It's supposed to lift up the humble, or lift up the meek and humble the powerful, right? It's a religion that is meant to, it teaches if you do not defend yourself, you are sinning against God. That is a sin in the Quran, right?
Right, and from a historical perspective, this was written at a time where these people were at war, and the war they were fighting was an invasionary war. It was not one that they stoked themselves.
Well, they kept trying to kill Muhammad, so when he finally got some power, he went back and did what he said he would do initially.
Right, and I don't want to dive too much into it.
Fair enough.
But if anything of what we're talking about doesn't ring a bell to you, and you don't know what we're talking about,
it's because
then I'm talking to you when I say go read a fucking book that is not, right there in line with your current values and views.
Step out of your comfort zone, you'll learn a lot.
A
couple years ago, I didn't understand Islam, but I also knew that Muslim people weren't just inherently evil. You know what I mean? I wanted to know why.
If you do, then you are brainwashed.
Exactly.
Again, I'm talking to you.
Right, you're being indoctrinated by Fox News.
Right.
Right? That's not to say there aren't bad Muslims, but at the same time, there are bad Christians. There are bad Jews. There are bad Buddhists. Everybody has a sect in history or currently that ain't fucking good.
Fucked up people do fucked up shit.
Thank you for using my slogan. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. But no, back to the point. We are the United States of America, right? Land of the free, home of the brave. You enact a Muslim ban, because that's what you called it during your campaign. You enact a fucking Muslim ban to keep a specific sect of people out of this country. A specific sect of people who are trying to escape war, right? There are millions dead in Syria, millions dead in Iraq, because of the United States military in Iraq as well. Right? There is millions dead in Afghanistan. There are millions dead in the Middle East as a whole. There are families, Christian and Muslim, that are trying to escape that. Now, going back to what I just said, we are the land of the free and the home of the brave. And when you decide that people can't come here to escape terror, because that's what it is, you are going completely against what the Founding Fathers wanted, in my opinion.
Oh, no, here's the thing. I agree with you. There is a sentiment that I'm going to echo. It's the 10 for every 10,000 argument. If I hand you I want to say when I first heard this it was like a barrel of apples, but you could make it a jar of jelly beans, I guess.
Go on.
Condense it a little bit.
Go on.
If I give you a jar of jelly beans and tell you there are 10,000 jelly beans, maybe fucking 1,000 jelly beans in here. So if I give you 1,000 jelly beans and I tell you one of those jelly beans out of that 1,000 will kill you, there is no saving grace, there is no antidote, it is not a joke. One of those jelly beans, if you eat it, will straight up kill you. Now, grab a fistful and try it out. You wouldn't do that. No one would. Like, you could be
right, but we're not talking about jelly beans.
No, we're not talking about jelly beans. But the argument is that 1 for every 1,000 or 10 for every 10,000 are terrorists or have a malicious intent towards the United States or as Christians as a whole. And that argument holds. Unfortunately, with logic applied, it holds. There are that 10% or that 1% or less that
because it is 1% or less.
Excuse me, it's like 0.1% to be honest. Right? No. Let's go there for real quick. And when I'm saying 10 out of every 10,000 or 1 out of every 1,000, that means 1/1,000. So I want to say that's 0.1 or 0.01%.
Something like that. Yeah.
It is small. You insult my math skills all you want. My point being is it is a infinitely small number. However, what we're saying in truth is that you have that small number, and then we also fear that maybe some of those not poison jelly beans, some of those not extremist terrorist refugees, may become a little bit extremist on the way over here.
Okay, so since there are some pit bulls that kill people, we should put all pit bulls down. And also, since there are some Catholic priests that touch little boys, we should arrest all Catholic priests and stop them from doing their jobs. And you know what, while we're at it, while there are some politicians that don't do their job the right way, we should just fire them all and let us all vote.
Wait, no, I agree with the last one.
Okay, but the point I'm making is, you know what, and while we're at it, mostly white people are the ones doing all these shootings, so round us all up and put us all in fucking jail.
Hell yeah.
Do you see my point?
Yes, I see your point.
Okay,
I gave you the silent applause for a reason.
Look, fucked up people do fucked up shit. There's going to be that element no matter where you go in the world, no matter what part of history that you have.
No matter what values you hold,
it doesn't
no matter what
matter.
Religious
this guy that
values
burned down the abortion clinic up the street killed a couple people when he did it, and he thought he was doing it in the name of Jesus Christ. Where in the Bible did it say to do anything like that?
Yeah, burn thy enemies alive, says the Lord.
Yeah, no, that never happened, right? Right? It doesn't add up. You say it holds water, but technically speaking, it does.
When it comes to logic,
right? But you can apply that same logic to everything I just said, and it would hold water.
That was the reason I brought it up. Was because if you're going to apply that logic and you're going to defend the idea that we are worried about, less than 1% of the individuals that are in crisis that we could absolutely house and fund to keep alive. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, to keep the fuck alive. You're worried about less than 1% of them being sour apples.
Right.
Well, on top of that, I believe that the real reason is not that you're worried about less than 1%. You're worried that a good chunk of them could be coming over and realize, also through logic, that, hey, the reason we're seeking refuge is because of your military action or your imperialist action, however, neocon, however you want to put it. And we might be afraid that some of these people realize that and come over here saying, wait a minute, no, we're not a part of this tribe, we're a part of the other one.
The jihadist tribe.
No.
Oh.
It wouldn't be jihad at that point, it would be simple fucking revenge.
Yeah.
Your entire family
that's
decimated. It was because of a war we brought to your front door.
In the same way the right cherry picks the Quran, the Muslim extremists also cherry pick the Quran. Right? They also do the same thing. The guy who initiated Wahhabism that is now Al-Qaeda and Taliban and ISIS, the guy that started that back in the 1200s in Damascus, they wanted to kill him. They thought he was a heretic. They wanted to kill him. But the caliphate in charge said, no, he is a caliph. He preaches, and we do not kill people just because we do not understand them. Right? But his ideology survived. And in the late 1800s, it started coming out in the Middle East and then carrying over. And then we have all the splitting up of the Middle East because of the West. So that ideology was then aimed at the West because of the things that they did, right? You can be for or against the American military.
What I'm saying is you don't have to join that specific sect or ideal.
Right.
Or even have a spiritual/religious ideal. You can just be pissed. You could be the fucking Punisher from the Middle East. You could watch your entire family and your household and your village and everyone you love die in horrible, horrible agony.
Which probably happened more often than you would think.
Than you would really like to admit as a U.S. citizen.
Yes.
And if you see that happening under these, I mean, even if it's if it's UK, France, and the United States, like if you see it happening under these entities that are from the West, are from these other ideals, and you're then given an opportunity to go to that domestic sovereign entity's homeland as refuge, there is that off chance, and I'm not even saying it's less than 1% at this point. I'm saying it's less than 1% that are already extremists, or because of religious
some
ideals.
Of the things that have happened here as far as terrorist attacks are people who were converted after they came over. The guy who, the guy who shot up the Pulse nightclub wasn't even from there. His dad was.
Right, and I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying it's even improbable that these people or individuals can be made into extremists because of these circumstances. I'm saying you don't even have to be brought to the extreme for those circumstances to be viewed as such that it was the United States' fault and that you have now malicious intent towards that entity, towards our government.
So the travel ban, we don't agree with it, but technically it's something that the Supreme Court thought, the 5-4 right Supreme Court, right? They're on the right now because we have a Republican who was able to put.
Oh, I'm not about to sit here and say that the justice system successfully defends the notion.
No. I mean, no. There's
I'm just explaining their logic.
Yes, and the logic in that sense is true. And look, you can look at Article 2 of the Constitution where it says the president has that power. He does have that power. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't mean anything.
It just makes it constitutional.
Exactly. Just because it's permitted doesn't mean it's good, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
I want to make that clear. I'm not a constitutional libertarian.
Right.
I don't think the Constitution, like you hold, well, not you, the collective you that could be listening, like anyone out there could look at the Bible and say that's the infallible word of God. I do not believe the Constitution is the infallible word of the forefathers.
Right. But they knew that. That's why they said it could be that's why you can add bills and amendments
but
and
I
things
also
like
don't
that.
believe we should be, is it Puerto Rico or the Dominican? Oh my God, the fact that I'm screwing those two up is a big deal. But it's one of the two that does every single time they elect a new governance, they also draft an entire new constitution. I do not believe we do that.
No, I completely agree. I think the Founding Fathers got it right with the Constitution, just specifically because you can amend. Right?
That being said, I think it's about damn time we look at the thing as a whole. Because the amendment process is extremely difficult. And we've since the 250 plus years since its original draft.
No, there's
and
a
the first
reason
10
it's
times that we did it.
Because
The first 10 times we did it, it was not that difficult. Because we came together and said, okay, it's not perfect, we probably need to fix it. And then after we did that, we really did make it difficult for us to do it again.
And we did a lot of bad shit.
I think that shit.
There was that whole slavery thing, you know. The
I think that shit. The three-fifths compromise is still technically part of the goddamn Constitution.
It's the worst.
It's been amended, so it is no longer relevant.
Right.
However, it's still in the damn document.
There was an amendment to not use a previous amendment.
Right.
Which is still technically in the document.
Right. So my point is I think it's more than past time, and this is a broad statement. I think it's more than past time that we get together as a caucus, as a thriving, pulsating entity, and completely revisit.
Dick and fart jokes, ladies and gentlemen. Dick and fart jokes.
Completely revisit the void that is our Constitution.
That was great. I think that's a good transition just to make fun of the Stormy Daniels situation.
Oh my God, that's what I was going for.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
All right, so if you're a fan of porn, and you've been to the hub of pornography, I don't know how much we would get, copyright slapped, but
I don't know, man. We've talked about a lot of people's shit on this show so far.
right.
And I've used a lot of songs and a lot of seconds of songs that maybe I shouldn't have. So,
If that's the first time, well, anyway, so if you've been to Pornhub and you frequent the rankings, then you would know that Stormy Daniels has been the #1 porn star on Pornhub for like a month and a half now, or damn near.
She's
close.
like 50.
Right.
Good Lord.
Right. And I'm just saying that is the power of the Trump bump.
Pun intended? Or
Yeah,
not?
no. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I think about it. But no, that is, holy crap, her name is out there. More than apparently any other porn star.
So are you saying that to say maybe we shouldn't believe her?
No. I'm saying that if you are trying as someone that opposes Donald Trump, someone that has never been a fan of Donald Trump and never will be a fan of Donald Trump, and you're trying to point, someone like you, right? If you have done nothing but criticize and never voted for, never was a fan of, and do
Wait a minute.
whatever. I'm not saying men.
Okay. No.
If you are and never have been on, if you are not
the Trump train,
if you've never been on the Trump train, right? If you've never been on the Trump train and you've never, been a fan and you think that maybe even this would narrow down too much. Mike Pence being better, but if you're for getting him out of office,
right.
then you've obviously never been a fan.
Right.
And if you've never been a fan to that extent, then trying to sit here and point at an affair is not going to do you any good, especially when he beat Hillary Rodham Clinton. So, like, an affair is not going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
You will not impeach Donald Trump over an affair. You will not. You might
impeach him, but he ain't gonna come out of office over it.
It would be the only way they could do so. Okay, and this is my whole point. Is if the $130,000 that were paid to Stormy Daniels, and this is almost universally accepted as fact, if that was paid out of campaign funds,
right,
then you have campaign fraud, and that is actually a huge issue, and he can be impeached, and maybe should be impeached on that.
Well, if the Dems flip the House and Senate, I think they're rushing to the table to get him out.
I think they would be fools to do so because he is more liberal than his vice president.
Yes.
And he is more willing to negotiate and come to the middle than his vice president.
Well, I mean, he likes his. I mean, he likes his ego.
He is much less embedded into the Republican Party than his vice president.
Than people like to think that he is. And his vice president is
milk fucking toast GOP
fucking
poster child.
Yeah.
My point is,
if you didn't get mad at Bill, but you're mad at Trump, you should stop.
Yeah, you can't. You got to eat your words there.
Right.
But even if you're saying, my point is that if you're saying that this is something that he should be impeached for, you are saying that this $130,000 came out of his campaign funds.
Right.
If it is not the case, it came out of his campaign funds, then you can't use this as an impeachment initiative. And if you claim that is the case, then you were also on board for Bill Clinton to be impeached. And if all of that is the case, then it is still based all upon the $130,000 not being campaign fraud. If the $130,000 are campaign fraud, then it's a much, much, much bigger issue, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's really the only issue.
Because a politician having an affair on his third wife, when he had an affair on the first two, that's the morale has left the Trump train.
Yeah.
No one is going to no longer vote for him that voted for him prior strictly because he is having an affair or had an affair during the election on his wife with a porn star.
Well, I think this is a good time for a dumb Don tweet, right?
Oh shit.
Yeah. Because Cohen's pleading the fifth in the civil case that Stormy Daniels is putting against him. Now, you can dig up a tweet for everything Trump says right now. In 2016, when discussing Hillary Clinton's testimony about her private email server, Trump tweeted, "There are 5 people taking the Fifth Amendment, like you see on the mob, right? You see the mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment? You should ask your lawyer that question there, big guy."
Right.
Yeah, gosh, you can always get one. Even if there's not a multitude of them in this one section, there's at least fucking one.
It's hilarious.
Look, I don't think that I think that you can't stand on as the right who just voted in Donald Trump as the president. You don't get to stand on the moral high ground anymore.
You don't get to. You also, if you're one of those people that are the whole like he tells it how it is. Part of the sentiment of he tells it like it is that he's not a total hypocrite politician.
Yeah, right.
And I'm sorry, but the more this shit comes out, the more it's like
the dumb. No, you lie. You're retarded, bud.
Yeah.
That's all. That's it. It's a civil suit case. We'll see where it goes. It really doesn't have anything. It doesn't have anything.
Well,
to
it's
do
on
with
pause.
policy.
It's on pause right now.
Yeah.
It's like 3 months on pause because he's being indicted for something else.
Who? Cohen?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
What's up?
Criminal charges.
Oh wow.
Some sort of.
Well, and Hannity was his. Hannity is now being connected to real estate firms that were overcharging people for homes and shit like that. And Cohen was his lawyer. Is what's coming out about that. Well, we can have more about that next week.
Ooh,
But,
I'd like to look into what the criminal charges are, because I
Yeah.
know it was just put on pause.
right. That would definitely be something we could get into. I just wanted to make fun of. I just wanted a good old dumb dumb tweet for everybody out there. Now,
I just like any topic that dives into porn.
good for you, libertarian. Anyways, so let's. I guess we can talk about another pretty big deal. DACA was held up by the Supreme Court as well.
Right.
Saying that Trump has to reenact it. So he said in, what was it, October or November? I was watching college football at the time, so it would have been in that area. He came out and said that that DACA was going to be rescinded. But he said he wanted to do it because he wanted it to be legislatively passed. He didn't want it to be an executive order, right? But everybody on the right rushed to say, oh, they're here illegally, they deserve to be out. And everybody on the left rushed to say, he's Donald Trump, he's a piece of shit. It's not, I think there's a little bit of, I think the left has more credibility than the right does on that issue. Look, these people came here as kids.
I think, okay, so if we get back to the Constitution real quick.
Yeah.
Anyone born on United States soil is a United States citizen by blood. It doesn't matter if your mom parachuted in as you were coming out.
Right, but that's not
If
what we're
she
talking
landed, I know, if she landed and you came out there, then, you're a United States citizen by blood.
about. Right.
Your mom's not, you are.
Your first generation.
And that's how it's always been.
Right.
250 plus years. Now, we've gone progressive and we've done this program. I don't know how long it's been around, but I mean the actual
Reagan?
Okay. It wasn't Nancy that Nancy brought it in, huh?
The Dreamers. That started with Reagan.
Must have been Nancy.
Yeah, maybe. But either way, yeah, the Dreamers started then, and then Obama started DACA specifically.
Right.
Because the Dreamer program was something that was just every president kept on and kept on and kept on. And DACA specifically was Obama's executive order or action. I'm not sure which one. But
And what's the age?
if you were brought here before like 18 or 16 as a kid, then you are you're deferred action, right? You don't get deported and shit. And I'm completely in support of that. Why the hell no? Like why?
Well, let's be clear real quick. All right, before I try to jump in as devil's advocate.
Okay.
I believe there shouldn't be any fucking borders on the entire planet. Imaginary lines are fucking stupid. We're all people. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, let me argue from the
Constitutional conservative standpoint.
Let's go ahead and go there. All
Be
right,
that
so
guy.
You're saying that before the age of 18, you should be able to cross the imaginary line in the sand, and as soon as you cross
If
it,
your parents forced you to.
is that part of the
That's-
legend? I mean,
I-
it's in the verbiage.
Look, if you
were
came-
forced,
no,
or if you were brought,
If you were brought, yes, if you were brought with your parents,
brought as in dragged.
dragged, kicking and screaming, brought as in carried as
What
a
if you were
baby.
kicked out of your house near the border and wandered that
Not what we're
direction?
talking about.
Okay, I didn't know. I don't know where the line is drawn. I know where the
Obviously.
Mexican border is.
Obviously.
But as far as the other
Obviously.
imaginary lines, I'm not sure where they are.
Hold on.
If you're going to play moral high ground on this order, just realize what you're doing. Let's say a large family group hustled across the border. They swam, they camped out, they avoided border patrol, and they got into Tejas, and they were able to go to Tejas, and they lived there happily for a few years, and eventually were found by ICE.
Development, relief, and education for alien minors, or the Dreamers, right? Those are the people it was enacted.
Yeah, but DACA is the one that says
Right.
deferred.
Action for childhood arrivals, and that was an extension of that program. It was something built off of that.
My point is that if the result of these adamantly named programs
Dreamers. That's a nice catch to it.
Yeah, it's admirable. It sounds honorable. It's
Right.
like we're dreamers. We're
How long do you think it took them to come up with that?
not long. Reagan and Nancy were Reagan and Nancy. Ron and Nancy were good at that.
Mm.
Hopefully you can edit out how many times I stumbled on myself.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna let that ride.
I don't blame you.
All right,
I
anyway.
know to you too.
Yeah, I know. But you don't edit the show.
My point being that these programs seem to just hinge on a lot of hearsay.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you come here illegally, I hate that I'm arguing this. If you come here illegally, then you're here against our nation's laws.
Yes, but you're a child.
And you
know.
were a child.
Right.
That's the other thing, is if they could come, like I said, you hustle across the border as a large family unit, your entire extended family, because, if Mexicans are known for anything, they're the family ties, familia. They come across the border, they get into Tejas, they get into Tejas, and they live there happily, and they... Tejas. And they live there happily, and they commit to the local economy, and they prosper. Beerin's a dollar. If they do it, and they are successful, and whatever, and then they're eventually founded by ICE. The kids could be 25 at this point.
Okay.
But they were brought in, and that's what I'm saying is why the fuck do we draw the line at 18 at that point? You're doing everything in retrograde anyway.
There shouldn't
The
be a
family,
line drawn.
you know what? To be completely honest, if you're going to take the moral high ground on that point, then you should claim everything that I honestly claim. You should think that if they cross the border and want to be here, fuck yeah, they should be here. Because
it would add to the...
Because you know what? There's some people here that don't want to fucking be here for some reason.
Fair. I mean, that is a fair point. They look. They
tag out. Go ahead. Tag out. I don't care.
They work. If they work, they would add to the economy. They would add in the social.
That was my point.
It would.
Dallas would be better off with the family.
Dallas, Texas.
Would be better off with the whole family unit, but we want to chop it in half and go. Anyone that was here before 18 can keep it. And can have a not citizenship, but a route to citizenship.
That's what I think should happen.
But you showed up at 20, and now you're, in your 40s. But we're gonna send you home to not your home, really, because you totally abandoned that shit.
Okay, but you're talking about.
A decade ago.
Okay, but you're not talking about children at that point. And I know that.
No, when they got here, they were sub 18.
Right, but you just said you got here at 20.
No, but that's my point.
Okay.
Is that the oldest brother was 19, 20 years old, and the youngest brother was 13, 14 years old, but now the youngest brother's in his 20s, and the older brother's in his 40s. We're going to send the older brother back and just leave the rest of the family, or even if you want to, even if you don't want to do it immediately.
I'm not in favor of splitting up families.
Even if you want to do it for two, they've only been here a year or so.
Look, this is my thought on immigration.
After a year.
This is my thought on immigration, right? You have to be extreme both ways. Right? If you want more border security, fine. We're a sovereign nation. We should have border security. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who are here illegally, spicy quotes, that could that could help the economy, that are living in the shadows, that come to this country to seek a better life. Same thing for the refugees. Why can't we give them all paths to citizenship? Then their kids will be American citizens, and it'll work itself out. Is that not something that shouldn't be ventured into, or at least put on the table, rather than just, we're going to draw the line at 18?
I don't care if you try to draw the line at birth.
I understand immigrants that get mad because they came here the legal way. They had to go through the hoops they had to jump. They had to do everything that was required of them by U.S. law, and then someone just runs across and is like, "I'm here, keep me." I understand. Well, no, not sub 18, because I think there's a difference in children and adults, right? But I don't think that 18 is necessarily that line.
Well, I'm talking about legally.
I think
versus legally, in that.
Right. Well, I think that it's a fair statement that maybe sanctuary cities should be looked into.
No.
No?
No. To be completely honest, man, I think that, and this is one of the reasons that I kind of tip my hat off to Jeb, knowing full well he would never win because of his last name. Let's be honest here, man. He wouldn't even have gotten close to the nominee because of his name.
Yep.
But
shit, people thought it would.
then, if you believe in dynasty, but no. my point is that his one thing that a lot of people didn't like him for was because he was Republican and therefore was against a route to citizenship. And he came out and said, no, quite the opposite. And I personally think that it should be to the next extreme. That it should be, if you just drive your car, ride your bike, walk across the border and talk to a U.S. official and say, hey, really have a shitty life in Mexico. I think it'd be great to be a U.S. citizen. How do I help out? I think that absolutely you should be ushered through a door and helped along the way.
I agree with that.
That is 100% my belief.
I agree with that completely.
But if you make that route that you're gonna usher them through fucking impossible for whatever fucking reason.
Yeah, I think that maybe we
create that want for people to come over that way. And I think that our idea, we can dip into king of the world a little bit here.
Well, you're not a sovereign nation without a border. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Yes,
Right.
private property is private property, but you're not. You're just not. That's and it's what makes us separated from Canada and Mexico, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having border security isn't a bad thing. I don't think, and I also don't think that it should be extremely super hard to come to America to try to work. I don't want to apply to work and on farms. You know what I mean? A lot of those jobs, they're paying illegals to work it because nobody wants to work it.
Okay, calm down.
No,
Because if we dive into it any further, we can get into why a lot of those farmers might not want those workers to have a route to citizenship. Because if they have a right to citizenship, they also have a right to federal minimum wage,
but
which they're not paying them at the moment.
Fair enough.
And they don't have to because they're here illegally. I'm sorry, but there is
You're
always
right.
there is always a malicious reasoning behind some of these
white
laws.
people, man. God.
Fucking white people.
God.
I hate them. Anyway,
It's true though.
I can't. It is our fault.
Yeah.
And it is our selfishness
Look,
that's keeping it that. I'm telling you, just like the pot farmers and pot dealers that don't want it to be fully legal because then you can grow it in your back fucking yard and you have no more reason to go with them with your money. Same reasoning. It is not. It is a completely selfish reason to keep the labor costs super low on these projects.
And people don't want to accept the fact that we need a livable wage, and if we allow some people to come over here and work legally, then they will also have to be paid that livable wage. And the livable wage that Americans are being paid is not very livable. You know, livable wage to me means I can pay my bills and still take my wife out to dinner every once in a while, or watch TV, or not have to worry about where my next fucking meal is going to be without having to ask the government for some help. That is a livable wage, but instead we create a culture, Donald Trump gets elected and creates a culture that says all the Mexicans are bad, build a wall, right? You say build a wall, you're meaning keep people out. You're saying that they're bringing over bad people. You start to create this look that they're all shitheads. They're all bad people, when they're fucking not. Same with the Muslims that we just got done talking about. Not all of them are bad people. Yes, some bad people may come over. That's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's those bad people's fault, right? And I don't think we should stop being America just because we're scared. I think when you play fearmonger politics, that's when you start to lose. That's when the polarization of our country keeps getting pushed forward. I think you can apply that to this talk, to any other talk that we can come up with.
Especially the nationalist versus globalist talk.
It's the globalists. They're going to take us all over. They're going to kill us all. I'm not a big fan. Look, I do like being a sovereign nation. I'm not a big fan of 50 people running the entire world at a conference in New York every year. We don't have to do that today. We don't have to do that today.
No, that's fine.
We don't have to do that today.
No, I get you.
You look like you got some ammo.
No,
save it. We'll do it. All right. So did we cover DACA? Yep. All right.
I mean, we could touch a little bit on King of the World if you want.
What would you do if you were king of the world there, Jimster?
Now, King of the World is what you just said should never happen, which I totally agree with a little bit.
Yup.
But if I was a collective of maybe a few hundred people ahead of some united group of nations that had actual democratic and legislative power over,
It would be a republic. It would not be a democratic
you're right.
society. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Who would vote?
Ah!
Who would vote for these people? And how long would it take to count all the votes? I mean, Jesus Christ, you're talking about the whole
How far
world.
is it? Look. Hey man, our technology's come a long way. It's going a long way
Fuck
too.
you.
This is a utopian kind of future concept, but
Okay.
we're not going there. If that
Shut up,
existed,
Stalin.
if that whoa,
Utopia, my ass.
to gulag with you, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Straight to
I'm
gulag.
sorry.
You go work that shit off.
Yep.
Anyway, no, if I was Stalin of the world, I mean, if I
Dias.
then in my opinion, look, even if you had sovereign nations, it would be more along the lines of how we do our state borders.
Right.
Right across, that's fine. But you're going to be looked at. And you have to, and I don't mean like you're going to be stopped and frisked either. For those of you that just heard, looked at, and thought, I'm on board with your authoritarian
No,
bullshit.
hell no.
But I think that if you want to be a member of our economy, if you want to be a member of our society, you want to contribute to this melting pot that is our American culture, I totally encourage it. It's just we should have a method of making sure that you're prepared to do so. And,
Absolutely.
And that should not be that difficult because we give that kind of initiative to fucking kindergartners. To be honest, I mean the kind of knowledge that we're
We
expecting
probably
them
give it to
uphold.
people who don't deserve it. That
You're
are born
absolutely-
here. That are born here.
You're absolutely right.
You know what I'm saying? So
And there are people that are here.
and you know what? And I will give your point some validity because just because I'm born here and I'm a shitty person, but somebody's born there and they're not a shitty person, I have more rights. The vetting,
I'm gonna be completely honest. If you live over there and you're a shitty person, I don't think you have any less rights than I do.
Boom goes the dynamite. Look, I agree with everything you just said, but I do believe that as a sovereign nation, we should have border. I don't want a fucking wall. I think you build a wall, you create an even harder culture that goes against even more brown people. Okay? I think that that's what that does, as well as the Muslim ban. I think that is I think it's asinine. But I don't think that border security is a bad fucking idea.
As long as border security is not some guy that is a tourist in Phoenix, Arizona, but that was born in Detroit, is stopped on the side of the road and asked for his papers because he appears Hispanic. I don't think that's border security.
Look, dude,
I think that's authoritarian.
Right. Well, they do it to people. They do it to brown people in the ghettos in here. It's all a fucking ruse. Look, I'll go down.
I don't think that any of that shit should happen.
No, I completely agree.
Land of the free, goddammit.
I said it earlier. Land of the free, home of the brave. Stop fear mongering. Quit being an asshole.
If only the whole world ran that way.
Yeah, I mean it. Nah. Yeah, the whole world should be run that way, but not all fucking holding hands saying kumbaya. Because a lot of people believe differently than we do, and it's not gonna. And me saying that somebody over there should say how they should run their lives is not going to work out the way that we think it is because of this thing that I call the human condition. And it just does. Globalism doesn't work that way because of the human condition.
Well, if you stifle any sort of
Utopia is a theory.
no, shut up. If you stifle any sort of globalist ideal from an individual because, or even from one entity, sovereign nation, because of mutually insured destruction, then you can agree that any military pursuit of influence is a direction in that, or excuse me, is a directive in that direction. So, or objective in that direction. So my point is that if you can agree that is no good, then any military action that is outside of humanitarian is the wrong kind of globalist. So
Right,
then you
but
could
we
also
don't
agree
engage
that
in
holding hands and singing Kumbaya isn't all that fucking bad. Because not everybody dies.
Right. But guess what? When everybody's when everybody's holding hands singing Kumbaya, that are the 100 people that run the world, that means that all the militaries are going to be focused on us, not each other. So we're not going to have a police force. We're going to have a military force.
Why we need military? Why though? We only need small military to stifle small rebellions.
You want to know why? Here's the big fucking get right.
And it's a joint military.
There's not enough money to go around.
You don't need money. Resources, motherfucker.
There isn't enough money to go around.
Resources.
Dude, the white people won't let the brown people have enough money for everybody to sing Kumbaya. I'm a white guy, and I firmly believe that that's how the people in power...
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying it's wrong.
Yeah.
And that it shouldn't
It
happen
is
that
wrong.
way.
I completely agree, but
we do agree.
The human condition is not... the human condition doesn't allow for that. We can get into a philosophical discussion about it, but we've been doing this for an hour and a half, and I'm ready to get the fuck out of here.
All right. Next week on Dead Center.
Maybe. Alright. I love you guys. This is Dead Center. I'm Trip.
This is Jim.
And we try to conversate, not constant hate, and get to the fucking point. I love y'all.
Terrorists, your game is through. 'Cause now you have to answer to America. Fuck yeah. So lick my blood and suck on my balls, America. Fuck yeah. What you gonna do when we come for you now? It's the dream that we all share. It's the hope for tomorrow. Fuck yeah. We got 'em. Fuck yeah. Walmart. Fuck yeah. The Gap. Fuck yeah. Baseball. Fuck yeah. NFL. Fuck yeah. Rock and roll. Fuck yeah.
At the side. What's up, everybody? This is Dead Center. I'm Jim.
You said that really loud.
God damn it.
That's my line.
Then why? Why can't it be my line?
You want it this week?
Yeah.
You want it this week?
Just this
Alright,
week.
Go ahead.
What's everybody? God damn it.
That's why it's not your line.
You put too much pressure on me.
Look, dude.
What's up, everybody? This is Dead Center. I'm Jim.
And I'm Trip.
And this is Dead Center.
Okay. You want to try one more?
Last one.
Last one. Okay.
I'm glad we got all of this. What's up, everybody? I'm Jim.
And I'm Trip.
And this is Dead Center, where we try to conversate, not constant hate, and
Get to the fucking point. What a fucking point. I mean...